Hello and welcome to Johnny's Prime with me, Ernest Kojo Manu. Coming up, minority in Parliament bemoan unfair criticism following the passage of the 2023 budget policy statement and economic policy.
Yesterday's decision. Yes, you are justified to be critical of Parliament.
We have details as they call on the public to trust them to protect their interests.
The approval process of the 2023 budget is not over yet, and the public should have faith and trust in the minority in exacting accountability and in standing strong with them.
Also in this package, suspended, repackaged, increased and reintroduced. The story of Ghana's road tolls. We'll tell you how the roads minister is assuring that Ghanaians should brace themselves to pay more for road tolls.
Tolls, if they should come back, gradually, one way or the other, it will come in a different form. We will no longer be paying the 50 pesos and the 1 cedis, and no, it will come.
Ghanaians have been reacting.
The cost of fuel is not only we commercial cars. Everybody in Ghana, it affects you. So when we bring the toll booth and they can repair the road for us, that one, it will be better than they will leave it like that.
2 years after election 2020, President Akufo-Addo gets low ratings from traders in the party stronghold, Kumasi.
I
rate this government by say 3/10 or 30/100.
I'll give them 4.5 out of 10.
Hello again, many thanks for choosing us. The minority in Parliament is lamenting what they describe as unfair tax by the public after the House approved the budget statement and economic policy for 2023. Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu says the public should have faith in their side's resolve to protect the public interest through the scrutiny of the appropriation bill and estimates for the various departments and MMDAs.
Yesterday, Parliament went through a major constitutional exercise and process of oversight in approving the policy principles of the 2023 budget statement. Let me state with emphasis that the approval process of the 2023 budget is not over yet. It's not over yet, and the public should have faith and trust in the minority in exacting accountability and in standing strong with them. Yesterday's decision. Yes, you are justified to be critical of Parliament and to be critical of the minority, but the consequences of not approving yesterday's policy principles are even more graver than not approving it at all. And therefore, you need to appreciate what we will subject the 2023 entire budget approval process to.
The minority have detailed all the things they will be rejecting in the budget. Dr. Kezula Tuforson is ranking member on the Finance Committee.
First, on the VAT, our position is clear. We in the minority, particularly the NDC, we are a Social Democratic Party. We believe in taxation. We believe particularly in progressive taxes. But obviously, in as much as we are the ones that introduced VAT first in this republic, we think that, one, this is not the time to increase VAT. At a time that inflation has imposed inflation tax on certain goods and services, to the extent that prices of goods and services has sometimes doubled, in some cases tripled. We believe that this is not the time to introduce VAT. So we are asking the government to hold on to that policy until the future. When there is stability, you can introduce VAT. Inflation is skyrocketing. In the last 10 months, inflation has moved from 13% to 40%. So obviously, cedis has depreciated badly. Now the government is telling us that they are going to introduce benchmark value discount, remove the discount. Obviously, that will result in an increase in duties. So this isn't the time to impose VAT on additional VAT on the people of Ghana. So we've zeroed in that, and obviously that is our position as a caucus, and we will object to it. And we will vote first from the committee and second on the floor. We have also said that, in the government's own words, they indicated to us during the e-levy debate that poor people will not be made to pay e-levy, obviously because their income is not good enough. And so therefore government intended to exempt them. And so they introduced a threshold of 100 Ghana cedis. But let it be noted that this 100 Ghana cedis, at the time they introduced e-levy to today, the value of the 100 cedis has been eroded because of inflation and the cedi depreciation and other things. So even if you are to look critically at the 100 cedis, the value of the 100 cedis yesterday, at the time they introduced, is about 40 cedis today. So why should we allow them to go ahead and do this kind of exemption? So we'll vote against that one as well. Then apart from that, we have again identified certain expenditure handles and believe that those expenditure handles should not be made to pass. An example, this government, again, as part of their budget, had said that they have created a contingency vote worth 1.4 billion Ghana cedis. We think it is inappropriate. We think we should reject it, and we'll take it to the committee and deal with it and bring a report appropriately. We have also said that at the time that the country is in crisis, even though we are Christians and we believe in a religion, obviously I am a very staunch Christian. I do not believe that this is not the time to use state money to build a cathedral. In fact, the Catholic Bishop Conference, the president of Catholic Bishop Conference has said that the National Cathedral is a misplaced priority. And so therefore, we cannot support the building of cathedral at this point. And so the expenditure in that must also be removed. So we have a number of things that we've said we are going to oppose. Then the almighty debt restructuring. Unfortunately, it's not before Parliament. The government is trying to bypass Parliament, and we will insist that this is brought to us for us to scrutinize it.
Will stay in Parliament because two nominees of President Akufo-Addo to the Supreme Court may not get the approval of the House to go to the highest court. Justices Barbara Frances Akayensu, Samuel Kwame Adibu, George Kingsley Kumsin, and Ernest Kojo were nominated to the Apex Court and vetted in July. Many months later, John Hughes understands only two justices, that's Barbara Frances Akayensu and Samuel Kwame Adibu, convinced the committee and have been recommended. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante joins me via Zoom with some more details on this developing story. Kweku, why is the approval of the other two pending?
So, Ernest, your namesake, Justice Ernest Kojo, is struggling to get the approval because of his affiliation to the New Patriotic Party. Ernest Kojo was the NPP's parliamentary candidate in the voter region for 2 consecutive times in the whole constituencies. And the minority have been at pain to say that because of his political affiliation, he is not qualified enough to go onto the highest court, the Supreme Court. On the other score, we have Justice Kingsley Kumsin, and we know he chaired that committee that looked into the Ejura disturbances that our colleague Erastus Asare Donko was at the heart of the reporting. We know that the minority have been taking issues as to regards to some of his utterances and some of the reports that they put out. Indeed, the committee and the minority members on the committee are not happy that the committee did not single out that Justice Kingsley Kumsin Commission, did not criticize the police, the army, and the state forces that unleashed violence in Ejura. And so these two members who are already at the High Court and the Appeals Court bench are struggling to get that approval. And for many months, our understanding is that that is what has been holding back the report of the Appointments Committee, because what we know is that the very day that the justices were vetted, the same day a decision was reached on which of them were going to be approved and which of them were not going to be approved. Right. And so Frances Akayensu and then Justice Kwame Adibu got a clean bill of health from the committee that they fit to ascend to the highest court of the land, that is the Supreme Court. But on the score of those two other nominees, they are not fit. Let me read for you part of the committee's report.
Yeah,
it says
go ahead.
The nominees demonstrated dexterity in the knowledge of the law and showed character and competence. They pledged to interpret the law without fear or favor. The committee therefore recommends to the House by consensus the approval of Justice Barbara Frances Akayensu and Justice Samuel Kwame Adibu-Asiedu as justices to the Supreme Court. The committee also requests the House to adopt this report and approve the nominees as justices. So these two, barring any unforeseen challenges, on Friday we expect that a vote will be taken and these two will go on to the Supreme Court. Is this a decision that is coming from the committee as a result of a minority decision, or this is one that the committee agrees? Is there a split decision? Indeed, on the score of these two justices, Justice Barbara Frances Akayensu and Justice Samuel Kwame Adibu, it's a consensus decision. When it comes to the two other judges, what we know is that although NDC MPs are in the minority in Parliament and on the committee, on the day the vote was taken to approve of those two nominees, Justice Ernest Kojo and Justice Kingsley Kumsin, the NDC MPs were more because some NDP MPs had absented themselves. And so they had that. And so technically, it is a majority decision. Majority because the majority members of the committee, not majority as in the NPP committee. So that split is between NPP and NDC. But majority of the MPs who are on the committee, who were present on that day, voted to reject those two nominees. We'll see how this pans out. I'm grateful for the details you brought to this story. That's Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kweku Asante there. Now away from Parliament, prepared to pay more for road tolls. That's according to the Roads Minister. Kwesi Amoakwata's government makes a major U-turn to reintroduce the levy only a year after it abolished it. Government in the 2021 announcement said it was scrapping road tolls on all major highways and bridges across the country. Here's the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, in Parliament a year ago when he read the 2022 budget statement announcing this decision.
The congestion generated at the tolling points, besides creating these inconveniences, also leads to pollution in and around the vicinities. To address these challenges, government has abolished all tolls on public roads and bridges. This takes effect immediately. The budget is approved on appropriation. The toll collection personnel will be reassigned. The expected impact on productivity and reduce environmental pollution will more than offset the revenue foregone by removing.
Now, the Finance Minister, while presenting the 2023 budget, announced plans by government to return to tolling of selected roads in the country. When reintroduced, it says users would pay more and collection will be done electronically. Here's the Roads Minister, Kwesi Amoakwata.
Certain highways, when built to the right specification, will come with towing facilities. But those towing facilities, will be electronic towing facilities. It won't come like the form we used to have in the past, where people were in a queue for a very long time. Getting a whole year, we were getting an average of 78 million, cedis. If you deduct salaries and whatever from it, how much is left? Depending upon the ground condition, that amount of money not even build 10 kilometers of road. And I'm saying, depending upon the ground condition of the road that you want to construct. If all of us had contributed to the e-levy, it would have brought in a lot of money to replace the original toll booths. And we would have built more roads for ourselves. Tolls have not been cancelled or abolished. The law is still there. So if they have to be in the queue for 2, 3 hours, 4 hours, and you get there and you pay 50 pesos, Ghana was paying the lowest toll in the whole world. I challenge anybody who can tell me any country which was paying tolls lower than Ghana. We were paying the lowest toll in the whole world. Okay? Meanwhile, we want excellent, good roads in our country. And rightly so. If every Ghanaian, including you, yourself, myself, yes, we want good things, we must be prepared to pay for. Tolls, if they should come back, gradually, one way or the other, it will come in a different form. We will no longer be paying the 50 pesos and the 1 cedis, and no, it will come. If you travel abroad, tolls, and many people travel abroad, okay? Tolls, very expensive, okay? Tolls are very expensive abroad. That is why, and that's how come they are able to build good roads.
And we'll bring you reaction from drivers and hawkers later who were on the roads. But 2 years after Ghana went to the polls and retained Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo as president, some traders in Kumasi say they wish they could turn back the hands of time. Traders at the racecourse and KGTR markets are unhappy with the government's performance 2 years into its second term. The traders bemoan the continuous increase in prices of goods and services coupled with the exorbitant transport fares, which is crippling their business. They want immediate remedy to the country's economic woes.
It's been 2 years on after election 2020. What has been the impact story so far? How do Ghanaians rate the Akufo-Addo Bawumia-led administration after 730 days in office?
I rate this government by say 3/10 or 30/100. They are not performing. Previously they were performing. When he came first, Ghanaians, we had hope that he was coming to do things as we expected. But unfortunately for us, things are not going as we were expecting this administration. And I count those who are not helping the current regime, this administration, to be the economic team.
I am unhappy about my vote outcome. I would certainly not vote again.
I'll give them 4.5 out of 10 because there's a certain things now that they are trying to organize themselves, put measures in place so that maybe for the next 2 years, then things will go better for us, especially the fuel prices.
I am very unhappy. 2 years ago, I had given birth, but I took my baby along to go and vote. But now, times are hard. If things don't change, I am not voting again. After the difficulty in the last 2 years, times are really hard. The first year was okay, but this year in particular has been very difficult.
With the current ratings so far, Ghanaians are not happy with the Akufo-Addo Bawumia-led administration after 2 years. Nana Dankwa reporting for Joy News.
Now, any attempt to forcibly stop nomadic herdsmen from entering the Ashanti regional town of Ijira during the upcoming dry season will have adverse consequences. That's the caution from leaders of the Fulani community, who say plans by the security agencies to stop the movement of cattle to that area will cause them to disperse, inflicting more damage. This comes after the Ijira Traditional Council declared a ban on the activities of nomadic herdsmen in protection of farms amidst security concerns. Now, Jima has more in the following report.
The Ijira Traditional Council has taken a decision to flush out nomadic herdsmen and their cattle in communities within the area. The chief of Ijira, Berima Osei-Hwede II, recently destood his sub-chief for his alleged role in aiding herdsmen to perpetrate crime at Memenaso No. 1 and 2. This was after farmers and inhabitants accused the herdsmen of being behind recent robbery attacks, including the killing of a police constable and destruction of farms in recent times. Abuafonhene of Edra Traditional Council, Nana Yawapia, affirms the council's decision to evict the herdsmen from the communities.
So the Fulani community in Edra as a whole, we don't have a problem with them. We have never had a problem with them. The issue has to do with those who come in. Normally, they are not even from Ghana here. But you know, as Ghanaians, as welcoming as we are, when they come in, we think that they come to feed their cattle and go away. But they come along with this robbery, kidnapping, and destruction of farm produce. So we've resolved that enough is enough.
The leadership of the Fulani community in Ghana, however, says the use of force to stop migrating cattle may cause the animals to disperse, which may lead to destruction of many farms. General Secretary of the Tabita Palaku International, Yakubu Musa Bari, suggests the traditional authority soften its stance on the matter.
The timing of his invoking was very, very close. The animals have already moved. They are even close to enter. And if you say you disrupt them and stop them, they will spread. And that will bring a lot of security threat within that community, within the community or even the district.
Musa Bari also expressed concerns about what he described as continuous stereotyping of the Fulani community.
We are also whistleblowers to the security. When we see, we spoke, we engage them and bring out the bad notes to them. By the end, the next minute you see them out on the street again. And then the information we are getting, allegedly, they have godfathers. When they are being arrested, some godfathers came with huge amounts, change hands, and these criminals will come out again.
The Member of Parliament for Edra Setridumase, Mohammed Bawa Brahma, who is also a member of Parliament's Defence and Interior Committee, called for urgent solution to the concerns in the area.
They should come out with a plan that their coming will not endanger life and property. And if whatever plan that they bring sits well with the traditional authorities, all of us will sit down together and see whether their continuous influx into this constituency will not be to the detriment of our people.
Police in the area are continuing investigation into recent attacks, including the killing of the police constable. For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima, Edra.
Now, President Akufo-Addo has called for workable solutions to address challenges identified with the customary land system in Ghana and parts of the country. The system, which exists, in most urban areas, especially here in the capital, Accra, entrusts land in the hands of indigenous communities and is administered in accordance with their customs as opposed to the statutory tenure system. This is said to be responsible for the multiple sale of land in the capital. Addressing the ongoing National Land Management Conference, the president called for pragmatic ways to end the menace.
The very nature of land demands that its effective and efficient management requires the collaboration of various actors. Stronger partnership is required between government, judiciary, traditional authorities, civil society organizations, and the private sector to fashion out pragmatic and workable relationships to govern land ownership, land tenure, and land use. Unfortunately, in our urban areas, the customary land system has been the bane of most of our problems, such as double sales of land, wrongful sales of lands by people without capacity, multiple claims to land by different stools, skins, clans, or family, among others.
Land and Natural Resources Minister Samuel Abujinapo says various laws have been passed to streamline the acquisition of land. He is also hopeful the completion of the digitization of land administration in the country will help address the issues identified with the sale of lands.
The first Consultative Assembly on Land resulted in a National Land Policy of 1999, which until recently provided policy direction for the management of our land resources. Though still relevant, technological advancement and infrastructural development have created new challenges that require major reforms through broader consultations. Drones are being employed in surveying and mapping to produce accurate geo-reference and efficient orthophoto maps to support land registration in our country and base maps for development of local planning schemes. We are also working rigorously to ensure the digitization and digitalization of the records of the Lands Commission. This will lead to improved maps and spatial data, digital transformation, systematic recording, verification and creation of national cadastral, and implementation of national spatial data infrastructure.
The two-day conference is expected to come up with solutions to the myriad of problems bedeviling land management and acquisition in the country. Executive Secretary of the Lands Commission, Ebenezer Dazi, called for support to address the key problems identified.
Part of the mandate of the Lands Commission under Article 258 of the 1992 Constitution is to formulate recommendations on national policy with respect to land use and capability. Such an important task requires broader consultations to solicit the views and ideas of all stakeholders in the management of our land resources. Let us all participate actively in the discussions at this conference to ensure that the land economy of our country takes its rightful place in the government's transformation agenda. If we get it right with land, we will surely get it right with the other sectors.
You're watching Joy News Prime with me, Ernest Kojo Manu. Still to come, we'll tell you the story of how baboons in the cliffs and rocks on the shoulders of the Accra-Akosombo Highway are being threatened by speeding vehicles.
This enclave has for decades been the safe haven for baboons, but it appears that gradually it's becoming an unfriendly environment.
Hello again, many thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime with me, Ernest Kojo Manu. Forest guards on the Accra-Akosombo Highway are calling on motorists to drive cautiously to prevent killing baboons there. The cliffs and rocks on the shoulders of the road have served as a haven for the baboons for decades now. In recent years, however, speeding drivers who ply the road are posing a real threat and endangering the existence of the species. My colleague Latif Idris visited the area and has come through with the following report.
Globally, baboons may not be extinct, but due to their troublesome nature, younger baboons are usually threatened by leopards. Conservationists also identify overgrazing, agricultural expansion, irrigation projects, and overall human settlement growth as threats to the existence of baboons. However, in recent times, it appears reckless driving is the real threat to the life of the baboons on the cliffs of Shire Hills. It's a somber mood here for the baboons on the Accra-Akosombo stretch. I mean, this particular enclave has been the safe haven for this particular species of baboon. But just as we were driving past, we realized that one of the baboons has been knocked down and killed by one of the speeding vehicles on this stretch. We happen to find some of the forestry guards here who have come to the scene to, in attempt to, bring back to life this baboon.
It's so sad for a wildlife animal like this baboon to, lose its life because of speeding. But sometimes it happens due to the fact that over-speeding sometimes kills some of these species, and mostly people feed them. So in trying to feed them, they try to be on the roadside, and then a moving vehicle just knocks some of them. It's a challenge that we sometimes do encounter, but we are trying our best, even though we have signages all over but still, we are doing our best to help curb all these issues. Yeah. People unknowingly or knowingly try to, have their way by killing them. Yeah, so it's a big challenge. And if possible, we'll play with the highway authority if road signages and other
ramps you would say
can be mounted so that we can help curb this issue.
Forest guards are urging kind-hearted motorists who wish to feed the baboons to be wary of speeding vehicles in order to prevent further killings of the species.
It gets fractured.
It's dead. You mean it's dead? This enclave has for decades been the safe haven for baboons, but it appears that gradually is becoming, an unfriendly environment, all because of speeding vehicles that are plying this road.
Latif Idris with that report there. Let's return to our earlier story on road tolls. As reported, government says it is reintroducing the tolls on some major highways, and this will be done electronically. But the roads minister says you should be willing and ready to pay more. We've been speaking to some drivers and hawkers about this decision. Listen.
For me, my view now, the motorway is spoiled. So I think when we take the motorway, we get some money to repair the motorway. Because if you rate where somewhere out to area there, if you don't take care, somebody will smash you on the way. Always there's accident there. So the road is not good. So I think when we take the toll, it will help the road. The cost of fuel is not only we commercial cars. Everybody in Ghana, it affects you. So when we bring the toll booth and they can repair the road for us, that one, it will be better than they will leave it like that.
We need money to repair them. Cars from Burkina Faso are applying for free, which is not good. So they have to bring it back. We initially paid 1 Ghana cedis. If the new tolls are pegged even at 2.
Apologies there for that difficulty with that insect there. There's no other way to enter the law school except through the entrance exam. That's the assurance from the director of the Ghana Law School, Berma Yao Opon, speaking at the matriculation of about 700 students into the school for the 2022-2023 academic year. He mounted a strong defense of the admission system and urged all prospective students to work hard to meet the standard.
Admission into the Ghana School of Law has been dogged with controversy and made headlines every year due to the rate of failure amidst claims of leakage of exam questions. But the director of the law school, Berma Kojo Manu, maintains the systems are robust and credible.
Which unfortunately seems to be gaining unfortunate currency, that this school and those who manage it have made conscious effort to restrict access. It's forced, and those who make it known know that to be the fact. If this is the school where all persons have access, it doesn't matter your challenge. So go and spread the news, the good news, that in this school everybody have access. Once you qualify, that is the academic qualification, and also equally importantly, once you meet the eligibility criteria, which is about good conduct.
And yet, for all who are lucky to have made a pass this year, it is not a done deal. They are expected to be guided by the rules and regulations of the school, failing which sanctions will apply.
A South African company is sensitizing Africans to patronize African-made wine. As part of promoting African brand products, Don Emielo and a Ghanaian-based company has partnered with Wines of South Africa to promote African wine. The Director of Agricultural Economic Services in South Africa, Bongizwa Mutati, believes the African countries have the needed resources to dominate the market. That's wonderful report.
Wine consumption in Africa has increased over the years, with most brands on the market imported from European countries. A Ghanaian-based wine company, Don Emilio, is ready to change the narrative as it partners with Wines of South Africa to promote African-made wine. According to the group, promoting African products will build local capacity to compete with on the world market. The Director of Agricultural Economic Services in South Africa says African countries are capable in bridging the gap.
We are actually wanting to promote our wines into the African continent. And by the way, you know, the Africans must know that there is actually one region in South Africa that is actually producing wines, and we're actually producing those wines for the continent. They must actually enjoy one of their own unique product that is actually made from the South African soil, and they must really enjoy. It's a unique wine. We've got actually diverse wines. They must actually, on top of that, come to South Africa and experience more wines. This is their product. They must actually make use of it.
Meanwhile, the representative of Wines of Africa, Bill Bejura, is cautioning people to drink responsibly as we enter the festive season.
Currently in Ghana, the wine industry is booming. The sales, the volume, the consumption is picking up. It's on the ascent since 2015. We have wine connoisseurs, wine consumers, and wine patriots in Ghana as well. We say patriots in terms of they patronize South African wines very religiously. So we do activations every year in Ghana. So in Ghana, we've gotten a loyal customer base, a consumer base that we're encouraging to drink responsibly and also drink South African wine.
The group is hoping to be the leading producer of wine globally. Prince Owusu-Ansah's report for Joy News.
This is Johnny's Prime with me, and as we're taking a break. When we return, Becky brings us showbiz.